The Trump tariff countdown clock ticks down. The race to replace Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is now set, and it's clear the next leader of the country is going to have to go up against a volatile U.S. administration. Now, here to discuss the race, the Trump effect, and why she believes she's the best person for the job, former government House leader and Liberal leadership contender Karina Gould. Thank you so much for being here this morning. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. It's fun to be here. I usually watch you guys when I'm getting ready in Ottawa.
Well, thank you for watching.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you something that I've heard you repeatedly say since the race began, and that's that Canadians have lost trust in the Liberal Party. You have held some very big roles in Trudeau's cabinet in the past 8 years. What responsibility are you willing to take for that?
Yeah, look, I think that this is something that we just have to acknowledge as the Liberal Party of Canada and as the government, is that, for the past couple of years in particular, Canadians have been telling us that things are unaffordable. They've been telling us that it's hard to make ends meet. And I think we eventually got there, but it took us too long to listen to what Canadians were needing and what they were saying to us. And so for me, I'm not too proud to say that we've done some really good things, but we've also made some mistakes. And I'm here to acknowledge that we need to do a better job of listening to Canadians and to responding to them when they need us to.
Did you bring concerns to the PMO, though? And I'm not asking you to, break cabinet solidarity here. I'm just curious, am I to interpret from that it was all Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, that he wasn't listening and responding?
No, I don't think it was just the Prime Minister. I think it was kind of collectively us as a government that, we were very focused on the things that, we had promised to Canadians, but we didn't adapt quickly enough to the situation. And so for me, my brand and who I've always been as a politician is someone who listens to the grassroots. I've always been very involved in my community in Burlington and making sure that I'm hearing what they're saying and absolutely bringing that forward. And, part of politics is you bring ideas forward, you have those discussions. Sometimes your ideas win out, sometimes they don't. But what I really do care about is making sure that as politicians, we're listening to Canadians and the decisions that we're making are reflective of what they need in this moment, but also what they need into the future. And so that's the energy that I bring, that's the difference that I bring, and that's something that I'm really excited about.
The Trump tariff threat at this moment in time appears to be, the ballot box question. Who is going to be best to lead our country through that? And I ask this question with respect, but I think some Canadians might say, how are you going to take on Trump when you couldn't even get your message across to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau?
Well, I mean, there are many times when I did and was very successful at it, but I've also been the government
to your own
House
admission,
leader.
No one was listening.
Well, no,
really.
But I think there was lots, that's a democracy. You have a discussion, you have conversations. That's what makes a democracy special and important. But I was also the government House leader for the last 18 months. And so I've been able to stand up to bullies in the House of Commons. I'm able to negotiate with people with whom I don't necessarily see eye to eye. And before that, I was the Minister of Families and negotiated the childcare agreement here in Ontario. I didn't just say we're going to give the province a bunch of money and see what happens. No, we got a really good deal for families in Ontario to reduce childcare fees, and we got the deal that we wanted from the federal government. There's still more work to do, but I'm good at negotiating. I know how to get things done in Ottawa, and I also know how to work with others with whom I don't necessarily see eye to eye.
Well, we did run a story earlier this morning about the childcare deals falling apart, especially in this city, given the new funding formula, but that's a discussion for another day. I wanted to ask you very quickly about your position on the carbon tax, because you have said that you will freeze the consumer portion of the carbon tax, the scheduled increase on April 1st, but you haven't outright said that you're going to eliminate it. Are you prepared to eliminate the consumer price on carbon?
Well, I think we have to have an honest conversation about it. I think what we hear from Canadians is they're saying that this is a policy that isn't working quite as they want it to. But we need to also be honest about the fact that it's responsible for 10% of our emissions reduction. So I hear Canadians when they say now is not the time to increase the price. So I'm committed to freezing it as of April 1st, and then to having a broader conversation about what a replacement could look like, because we still need to fight climate change. And I know Canadians care about this. I know they care about reducing our emissions, and I know they care about protecting our environment, but we need to figure out what is the best way for us to do that. So in the interim, I'm going to freeze it, not raise it, and then figure out how we make up that 10%. I think we need to make big polluters pay more. We've asked industry to do that. They haven't necessarily stood up. but I also want to make sure that we're providing Canadians options to make the kinds of choices that they want. We need to bring back and also increase the rebate when it comes to purchasing electric vehicles and hybrids. I would include gas hybrids in that as well, because anything we're doing to reduce our emissions is a good thing. And also bring back the home energy retrofit program that is helping Canadians reduce their emissions and save on energy bills. So my plan is really to say, I hear you, now is not the time to increase this. Let's figure out how we replace it, and let's figure out how we help you make the choices that you want to make.
I have about 30 seconds left, but the carbon tax, that is something that Canadians have been saying for years that they don't like. It's making life for them unaffordable. So I guess the question I pose to you is, given that you're not prepared yet to eliminate it altogether, how can Canadians trust that you have learned from the party's past mistakes and that you're actually listening now? Because I think it has to go further than just an admission that some of your policies are not politically palpable.
Yeah, well, so that's why let's freeze it, let's not increase it, and let's figure out what we do to replace it so that we reduce those emissions, but at the same time ensuring that those rebate checks that people are getting here in Ontario and across the country don't just stop either, because for a family in our community, that could be up to $1,200 a year. And so I think we need to have an honest conversation. Just because Pierre Poilievre says something doesn't mean that it's actually true, and in fact, often it's not. So we need to have an honest conversation about what it is that we're putting forward, what the trade-offs are, and how we can make the best decisions for Canadians.
Karina Gould, I have to leave it there. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. Hope to have you back.
Thanks for having me.